Welcome to this episode of Trauma Rock Stars. I want to introduce everybody to Sandra. She's a certified trauma healer and an intuitive mentor, but she's also an author. And she has an incredible story of her own and how she's gone through her trauma journey. So, welcome, Sandra. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Tracy, for having me.
I do want to talk about your book and everything, but let's start back from the beginning. How far back do you want to go? Because I know that you had a lot of childhood trauma, and I want to talk about how you were rejected by your therapist, which I think a lot of people can relate to that, me including, and having those bad experiences. So, why don't you just start from the beginning when you were little and everything that happened?
Sure. Well, the first thing happened when I was 12 years old.
Hmm.
My mother made a dream come true. She made it possible for me to take care of a pony, which 12-year-old girl doesn't like horses, right? We weren't, well, wealthy enough that I could have my own horse or get training lessons or anything, but just taking care of a pony meant the world for me. So there was the stable master who promised my mother he would take care of me. He would show me the ropes and everything that I needed to learn so I wouldn't get kicked and bitten and don't fall off the pony, which still happened. But yes, so one day when I was there, he asked me if I wanted to ride on his horse, which was a beautiful brown horse, tall and amazing, and I just love the big ones. And so, of course, I said yes. My mother trusted him, so why shouldn't I?
Hmm.
So the next time I got there, he had his horse saddled, and I was sitting in the saddle, and he was walking beside us. And we were walking for like 10, 15 minutes. It was a very hot summer's day, and we stopped at a shed. And he said he just had to go inside and get something, and he wanted to give the horse a rest. So, not thinking anything of it, I allowed him to help me off the horse, and we went inside the shed, and it was dirty, muggy, and there was like makeshift bed with a rough blanket. On the other side was like a workbench and an old office chair. And he made me sit on the bed, and he went over to rummage around his tools for a while. Then he came to sit next to me, and then he molested me. And it was going on for, I don't even know how long. It could have been minutes, it could have been an hour. But at some point I asked, shouldn't we go back? Aren't they going to look for us? Because I tried to get away, but I was also scared. And he
Right.
just, not yet. So eventually we left. But to be honest, still to this day, I don't remember how I got home that day. I was on autopilot. I knew I must have taken the bus because that's what I usually did.
Hmm.
But I don't remember anything until I was at home and my friend came over and he saw me in complete distress and he asked me what's going on. So when I told him, he said, tell your parents. And I was like, no, I'm afraid. What if they think I done something wrong? And he was like,
Hmm.
nope, I'll go with you. Tell your parents. So my mother came home. I told her. She listened to it, looked at me, and only said, don't go there anymore. That was literally all. I didn't get a hug. I got you. We will fix this. Nothing. Back then, that was the worst thing. Today, I understand she had mother's guilt for putting me in the situation, for not realizing that he was a perpetrator. Now I understand that, but back when I was a child, I felt left alone. There was no explanation. I didn't even understand what happened, what he was doing. I was
Hmm.
12 playing with Barbies. So that was the first. Then when I was 14, we went hiking in Austria. Now I should add, born and raised in Germany, so we went to Austria every year. There
Hmm.
was always a vacation we were looking forward to. We always went to the same hotel, and the hotel owner had the advice that he liked to drink welcome shots with the guests. And since the hotel was always booked, he was very drunk at the end of the day. So
Hmm.
another vice that he had was fondling women's breasts, kind of like a handshake. So it didn't mean any more of it. It was just that. When he was drunk, he fondled breasts just once, and that was that. And it was in the 80s, so I guess it was still widely accepted that women could just be fondled if men wanted it. So one time, when my parents were looking at new accommodations they were building, they put me and my sister in his care. And that day, he tried to touch me. And I said no, and I ran away. And for him, this became a game. He kept on chasing me, coming after me, and I just yelled, "No, leave me alone," and he didn't care. He thought it was funny. Now, he never got to touch me, but he still tried. When my parents came back, I ran to them, told them what happened, and my mother was, sorry, trying to downplay it. And I was saying, "You can do this to our daughter, or she doesn't understand it, you didn't mean anything by it." So I was mortified that my mother would not stand up for me. Now I understand she tried to keep the peace because we went there every year, and we still went there, and he never tried to touch me again. He would never even come close to me after that. Still, I felt deserted again. Then, when I was between the age of 16 and 17, I was bullied in school by almost the entire class for about a year. It was spitballs and kicking me in the break while I was sitting there reading. And the crescendo was when I was writing a letter to my pen pal, telling her about my first boyfriend, how excited I was, how we met and everything. And they stole this letter out of my backpack and distributed copies throughout the whole school. That's when teachers finally stepped in. Now, when I was bullied, I told my grandma about it. My grandma was my rock, I should add. She was the one I went to whenever I wanted something, and she then went to my mother, "Don't you dare say no." So that was my grandma. But what she told me was not helpful at all. She just I ignored them, they will stop. They didn't, of course. So once again, I was deserted by my family. Then when I was between the age of 19 to 25, I was sexually assaulted multiple times. One time was on a dance floor. With my friends, I went to a Cuban club, and a man asked me to dance. And so we danced to very fast tunes. He pushed my torso so hard against his that I could feel him moving against me and his erection growing. I tried to push him away, and he wouldn't let go. When the dance finally stopped and I could get away, my friends were asking, "We saw what happened. Why didn't you push him away?" Instead of coming to my aid and getting me away from him. Then, when I was 22, I was raped. It was the best friend of my then boyfriend. I never knew that he was interested in me. One night we were all, as we did on the weekends, have a game night, playing some board games and drinking. So my boyfriend, they were both in the military, so my boyfriend had to get up early for duty next day. So he went back to his apartment. I said, "I will stay here and sober up before I drive home." Because it was a January night, it was icy, and I don't want to be tipsy when I'm driving on ice, or in general. So I stayed there. I slept in this huge, it must have been an over king size bed. At least 3 people would have fit between us. I was on one side, he on the other. Before I knew it, he was right next to me and started fondling me. And I told him, "Don't, get away, I don't want this." He was drunk and he didn't care, he just continued. Until I got so angry, I just pushed him away and then hands off. So first I was, of course, mortified, and then I really got angry. And I snapped at him and said, "Do you still want me, or can I go to sleep now?" Well, I guess he misunderstood that as an invitation. Before I knew it, my pants were down and he was pushing inside.
No one was in the room,
No, just my knee.
and
Now, I don't know where.
you weren't able to get away.
I did. The adrenaline must have kicked in because I pushed my feet under him and my legs, and he flew across the room. I don't know where
Okay.
that strength came from. That's when he woke up, but then the damage was already done.
Hmm.
And then, of course, I got my clothes and ran outside. And of course, I was still in that people-pleasing phase, so I didn't want to go to my boyfriend and wake him up, and I was still too drunk to drive. So I slept on the couch, more or less. In the morning, as soon as I woke up, I ran to my boyfriend, told him what happened, and he said, "He's my best friend, we're not going to do anything." So that was the end of that relationship. Then, after I was raped, about a couple years later, I went to see a psychologist because I didn't like who I had become. I didn't even recognize that person in the mirror. I was outgoing. I used to love going dancing. I used to be 2-time European champion in dancing. But dancing wasn't my blood. And I just completely secluded myself and I didn't like it. So I went to the psychologist and told him what happened. And when I was finished explaining what happened, he looked at me and he said, "Well, I believe you already worked through it all. What am I supposed to do?" So basically, just because I wasn't sitting there bawling my eyes out, but had my trauma and emotions under control,
Yeah.
he thought I already dealt with it and there was nothing he could do. He was not trauma informed.
No. When was this that you went to? Wait. how long ago was it?
Almost 30 years.
So, and back then they didn't have any clue like they do nowadays. Things we're
Yeah.
so much more educated now. And even I've had psychotherapists and stuff on the show, and they even say that's so much more advanced now than it was back then. But I'm sorry, I had I did not have good experiences with therapy back then. So I can understand where you're coming from, but I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
So after you basically got made to feel even crappier by your therapist, that you're trying to get some help, what did you do? What was your next? And did you, at this point, did you even tell your mom about any of this?
No,
At that point, you didn't bother.
I stopped telling my parents after the thing in the summer. When I was raped, when I came home that morning, my father was up. He just saw my face and he said he tried, didn't he? I was like, no, he did it. And then I went to my room. So when I came back, he said, well, that guy keeps on calling and I cannot tell him to stop calling. So you need to talk to him so that he stops calling. So I had to talk to my rapist because my dad couldn't handle it.
Did you
And
call the police?
no, I
No.
wanted to. I wanted to sue him. And I was talking to my father about it. And he said, it's going to be you against the entire US Army. Who do you think is going to win? And so I just let it be, stopped going dancing, going to the country club that I absolutely loved, and just secluded myself.
Yeah, you suppressed everything.
Yes.
So how long was it after all of this? This is just one thing after another with you. And how long was it that before you started to, I don't know, get the help you needed? And what did you do to get to the
Um,
next step? Because you must have been so just wanting to give up.
I was. After the psychologist, I just hit rock bottom. I
Mm-hmm.
was deserted by family. I was deserted by friends. I was deserted by those who were trained to help someone like me. There was no one. So first I hit rock bottom. Then I had a very good friend who was very spiritual. He gave me the first clue in getting myself back out of the trauma without knowing that. He came to visit me one day and saw me sitting on the couch like a heap of misery, completely defeated. He stood in front of me with a stern face, hands on his hips, and said, get a quartz crystal already. And I
Get what?
had no idea, get a quartz crystal already. And I had no idea what
Okay.
he meant. I had absolutely no idea. But I did as he asked, and it really helped. After 3 months of taking it to bed with me and holding it in my hand, I started feeling lighter. I was a little more outgoing. I didn't feel so heavy. I stopped having nightmares. It was helping. Back then, I didn't understand how that worked. Now I do because it's part of what I do now with my clients.
Which you can more into that. That's because I'm fascinated by it as well.
Sure. Well, the quartz crystal is also called the poor man's diamond because its ability to help the body heal is as valuable as a clean cut diamond. So what it essentially does, the quartz crystal, it's pulling out heavy negative energy and replace. At first, when I started holding the crystal, I just felt my hand in the crystal. There was nothing. Then after a few days, I felt like a little pulsing in my hand or a spinning, which I now know is the hand chakra was activated. And sometimes I felt as if it was really like something was really being pulled out of my arm and then being pushed back in. So it was very interesting and it did help. I wasn't healed by any means, but it was a start. The next clue came from my last boyfriend before I met my husband. When he broke up with me, he said, I've been just married to a woman who has mental issues. I don't want to be dating one. He didn't say that mean. It was just a fact he stated. And I'm so grateful that he did. Because for the first time, I was sitting down and looking at what I'm doing in a relationship. And I realized that I was sabotaging each and every one of them. So then I decided I will not have another relationship until I am the woman I like to be in a relationship. So I knew that something had to change. I didn't know how, I didn't know with what tools yet, but that was my decision. It must have been the right decision because 3 months later I met my husband. That's now 21 years ago.
That's awesome. Is it I just want to ask you about the crystal. Was it, it's a quartz crystal, you said? Is it like a handheld size crystal? Because I know you can buy these huge
Mhm.
crystals, and then is it just one you can hold in your hand?
Give me a sec. I still got it.
Oh,
So that it fits nicely in your hand. I like the rough ones so that it fits perfect. You can take the cut ones or the rough ones, it doesn't matter. Same difference. It's just preference. And you take it in the hand that you feel most comfortable with. I use the left hand and just took it to bed with me. Now I was told to meditate with it, but back then I had no clue what meditation was.
I didn't start that till 5 years ago. And back
Mm,
then, nobody was talking about it. So.
definitely not in Germany.
So you had this crystal that was profound. You had the boyfriend that broke up with you, but was kind of a gift that he did that. And then you meet
Yes.
your husband 21 years ago, where you're still in the beginning stages of your recovery. So,
Yes.
what was next for you?
Well, what my ex-boyfriend told me there what gave me an aha moment that healing comes from within. So I have to look at myself to understand that there's
Mhm.
no outside tools that can help me unless I'm willing to look within. And that's what I started to really dissect everything.
Mhm.
Was it easy? No.
No.
Going back into each and every trauma on purpose, reliving it, that was hell. But now it's done.
How did you, because that's scary, having to go back and relive it all. And people that have been through trauma and are in their recovery journey can relate to this. But what did you do? What specifically did you do to go back and revisit all of these horrific things that happened to you, including the bullying, being gaslighted by your family, and losing friends and your therapist? How did you begin to start that?
Well, in the beginning, I didn't even realize that I was deserted by family and friends. I didn't even go that deep yet. It was really just what happened to me. And I think it always depends on the most prominent trauma. And I think for me, that was the rape
Mhm.
because that was the last. So it was still the most prominent in my mind. The rest was tucked away, not
Yeah.
suppressed anymore, but tucked away. And this is what I was really gnawing on, simply because I couldn't imagine how another person would do that. What gives them the right? What makes them think that they can just do whatever they want with me? I'm not an object, I'm a woman. I'm a person, I'm
Mhm.
a human being. So when you move through your trauma to understand that, you go through different stages. The first stage is the victim stage.
Right.
When you feel, you try to bring logic to what happened. And since there is no logic to be found, the only logical solution is it must have been something you did. And this is what you're gnawing on until you gnaw on it a lot that your mind says, okay, that's enough. And then you start to distance yourself from the trauma because you have been through it so much and looked at it from every angle, and there is
Yeah.
nothing you could have done differently because you did not know the outcome of your choices. How should I have known that a simple game night, me drinking a little too much and being responsible and sleeping it off before I drove home on a January winter night would cause this? So how
Right.
could I have known? I was in a baggy t-shirt and jogging pants. Not very attractive. So how could this have been my fault? But I had to get to this point first. Then, once you reach that point, you get angry. You start to get into the survivor stage. You get so angry. I wanted to kill that person for what he did to me. I was so upset because I knew I would never get an apology. And I thought that in order to close this circle, I needed an apology from him, for him to tell me, yes, what he did was wrong, which of course would never come. So I
Because he's
had
a
to,
predator.
sorry?
He's a predator.
Exactly. And he probably already had forgotten about me. So, beside the point, probably already shipped back to the States or whatever and back to his wife. So, I had to get past the anger. And this, for most trauma survivors, is so hard because it's so easy to get stuck in the anger stage.
But I feel like you need to have that anger though to the
Yes.
for the release. It's so important.
Definitely.
What were you doing? Were you journaling? What were you doing to help you get through this?
I'm a person who is always thinking. My mind doesn't stop. And so it was constantly going through my mind. So I
Mm-hmm.
was just sitting there staring at the wall, and my mind was going so quickly. I was in my own world and I was thinking about what I wish I could do and what I thought he deserved, and all of the things, when we wish to take our pain out and lash it at the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I realized that the pain and the anger I felt was only destroying me because it will never reach him. And that's when I said, I have to figure out how to stop being angry. I wasn't ready for forgiveness, but I had to say this has to stop because this is not good for me.
Right. I was going to ask you about forgiveness.
Yes. Well, forgiveness when it comes to trauma is, in my opinion, more like moving on. It
Mm-hmm.
means I'm allowing myself to let myself go from that story, to unlink myself from the story. Because as long as I'm angry, I am hooked into the story. I'm hooked into what happened. But it's not the story that has to change. It's the emotion attached to it that has to change because the story can never change. We can't go back into the past. But that's where most people are stuck is the story. Unlink yourself from the story, set yourself free, forgive yourself for staying so long in this story that will never change. Then that's forgiveness because you're allowing your perpetrator to become nothing more than a speck of dust in your life.
Because you take that
That's
power
why I
away.
see forgiveness. More for yourself than for anyone else because they get their karma. They don't deserve forgiveness. What they did is
Yeah.
unforgivable.
Karma, exactly. Did you start coaching or did you start writing your book first?
Neither. First, after I met my husband and came to Canada, I learned Reiki. So I always felt drawn to energy. It was
Mm-hmm.
ever since I had with my friend and the crystal, I was hooked. I wanted to know more. But in Germany, that was very hard because it's a very Christian country and they were not ready for spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
But coming to Canada, being on the border to the US, they were also open and there were so many metaphysical stores and I learned so much and I was like catching up in 5 years lifetime of
Yeah.
information. My
Yeah.
poor brain. But yes, then I studied Reiki and I had clients. And every time after a session, we sat down and chatted for a while about the session. And they always opened up to me about their trauma for no reason at all. They just did. And I noticed how I always knew exactly what to tell them.
Because you've been there, you've lived it, you know.
Exactly. So I guess in a way, coaching a little bit after the Reiki sessions without realizing what I was doing. And then one day, one of my clients said, well, I triggered my therapist and I had to help my therapist through the trigger in my own session. If my therapist can't handle my trauma, how am I supposed to? Another one told me, I was dismissed by my therapist, said I can't help you without anywhere else to go. And I heard this like 2, 3 times. I was like, this cannot be it. There has to be a way to fully heal from your trauma. I did. At this time, I didn't realize that there was still some limiting beliefs, self-sabotaging behavior left,
Of
but
course.
the most intense trauma was gone. I had a wonderful relationship with my husband, but there were no issues, sexually or
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. Then and there, I decided I'm going to find a way because I did it, so it can't be this hard. And it shouldn't be this hard. We shouldn't have to carry this around with us for the rest of our lives. That's not okay. Trauma isn't a life sentence. You should be allowed to move on. And that's when Rise Above Your Story was born.
So that was your first book, right? Rise Above the Story. Because you have two.
No, that was my second. Yes, I had a business called Serafina Faye, where I made healing crystals and gave Reiki sessions, tarot readings, all the little, helping a little, but hiding behind my Etsy shop and the tarot and everything. So I wasn't quite ready to present myself to the world. Let's put it this way. I wasn't ready. I was camera shy. I was healing spiritually, but 5 years later, and there was this nudge that I should do more. So whatever I did, it was getting more and more into trauma healing. And when I started writing my book, it actually was supposed to be a book about transformation, spiritual growth. But the
Mm-hmm.
more I wrote, the more the book decided, no, we're going to be a trauma healing book. Because the more I wrote, the more ideas about chapters for trauma healing came through. And then I understood that my book is not just about either, it's everything combined. So my book, Journey to Yourself, How to Heal from Trauma, is only the first one. The
Mm-hmm.
second one is in the works. And the third one, well, I'm almost ready with the title. So it's like going from healing your trauma to complete life transformation. That's what it
It's
turned into.
so it's kind of because I talk about this, you go through that door and you get to the other side of it, but we're constantly still healing. We're, like you said, we're never, I don't feel like we're ever fully covered. I feel like we just need to live, learn what, as you get through it and figure out ways to take it to the next level of healing. But for me, and tell me if you agree with me or not, for me, I don't know if it'll ever be completely gone. I just embrace it now. And how can I turn this into a positive type thing?
Well, you are on your journey of healing.
Mm-hmm.
It will be gone one day,
Yeah.
completely. But
Mm.
it's a slow process, and it has to be a slow process because we're evolving away from the trauma. So,
Mm-hmm.
with every step of evolution, we chip away at the trauma. For me, there is no trauma left. I don't consider myself a trauma survivor because there is none. So,
Okay.
you will at some point be completely free, and you'll know when that time comes.
Interesting. Because I wonder other people's perspective of that if you ever really get fully healed 100%. I've always
Mhm.
wondered that because it's got to be so hard to get to that point. And there's so many people and they haven't even really started their journey yet, their healing journey. So it's got to be very overwhelming. That's what you do. So talk about
Right.
talk about your clients and your business and how you help navigate through that. Because I'm sure you get clients with so much resilience, because of course
Mhm.
their nervous system is trying to protect themselves. So
Yes.
how do you handle that?
Well, first of all, what I've learned in my own journey as a healer is you can only help someone heal as far as you have healed yourself. Which means if I was still struggling with PTSD, I would not be able to help someone through and heal their own PTSD because I would not really know that it's possible because I hadn't done the work yet. So what I did was really digging deep and clearing out whatever I could find. Really purposefully going back in and dig and see what is this, what is that. Every time a trigger came up out of the blue, I would get excited, something else that wants to leave. Where others would punish the trigger, I say it's a guiding light toward what needs healing because if a trigger didn't come up, there wouldn't be anything that needed healing. And so when it comes to my clients, I have usually two types. The first type, they're fed up with their trauma. They tried so much, they may be on medication and want to get away from it. They just want to live their life. They want to become stronger and setting healthy boundaries and finding their way and they're feeling held back. So they're the easy ones because they will do whatever it takes.
They're ready.
Yes, they're more than ready.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm a person, I always say, I don't sugarcoat things. So you get the God honest truth, completely dry, take it or leave it. But
Right.
trauma is too intense, we don't have to sugarcoat it. And they love it. I haven't heard anything negative yet. So with them, it's less deep trauma healing because they have done most of the work already. We may have to do a couple issues, but not that many. The rest is coaching, helping them to set boundaries and stepping out of their comfort zone, speaking their mind, standing up, saying no. That's what we usually do. And we do a lot of laughing with my sessions. And laughing
Good.
is the best medicine,
It
yes.
is.
Because
It is.
trauma healing doesn't have to be intense. It can be fun, it can be uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how you're holding your session. We still get a lot done. They get so many aha moments. I love it. They leave my session so empowered just from 1 hour of working with me. And I love it as much as they do. You know, when you see the spark coming back into their eyes, that is so amazing to watch. Then the other type of clients that I get are those who have suppressed their trauma for decades, and all of a sudden something triggers it and it's just coming rushing back. And they don't know heads or tails anymore. So, and with them, I do the actual intense trauma healing. Still with a lightness, but when it's so heavy, it's hard to make them smile in the beginning because there's too much. So we gradually dig through with aha moments, and I add Reiki to it, which is very powerful because whenever a trigger is coming up, it brings with it so much energy. And while I do my talk therapy with them, I just kept pulling out the energy, and I got a client out of a PTSD attack within 5 minutes just by releasing the energy. It's so powerful.
I know, but I think some listeners aren't going to know what Reiki is. Can you explain that?
Sure. How to best explain that? Reiki is based on the belief that everything is energy, everything is vibration. So, for example, illness or trauma has a certain frequency, a measurable frequency. Being healed has a different frequency, and frequency is energy. So basically, what I help my clients do is not just release the trauma through talking, but by shifting the frequency. And the fastest way to do that is trying to release the energy that is stuck in the body from the trauma. All the memories, all the sensations is all stuck in the body. And this is all on the energetic level because you can't see it.
Right.
And so as I help them release this heaviness, and they talk and they release a trigger so much faster because we're working on two ends. So we're pulling at two strings. So Reiki in itself, well, most people say that Reiki is for stress relief and aches and pains, technically. What it does is it gives the body the ability to heal itself because our body is self-healing. We know that from the paper cut or a blister or a broken bone. The body's healing itself. And how does it do that? Through energy. So, and I have developed a modality called Trauma Reiki, which I'm going to start teaching this year, that you can add to any modality you're already using to help people through their trauma, and just add it to it and just release the energy while you're doing your work. And it will be so much more beneficial, so much more helpful in fully releasing trauma, because essentially it's just the energy that's left behind of the story of what happened, what we suppressed to find sanity. And by releasing that through talking, and it's such a powerful method because it's so gentle and yet it helps so much.
I practice it when I meditate, and I think a lot about that energy and off my spine and getting it out of me and things like that when I do body scanning. But mainly I concentrate on my spine. It just seems to work for me. Like everybody is different, but you have to identify it to get rid of it.
That's right. And you have to allow it to leave.
Yeah. And
that's a tricky one.
And I think a lot of people have struggled with the visual part of it because it's you have to practice at it. And it can be very frustrating at times and stuff, but it's so powerful when you do have those moments that you can just visually see it in your mind going away.
Yes.
Do you, with your coaching, do you coach all over the world?
Yes.
Is
I
it
work exclusively
visual,
on Zoom.
virtual?
Yes. Only on Zoom.
Perfect. And is it hard I know maybe for your first couple sessions with somebody getting to know them on Zoom, it works, but how do you do with them as far as energy release and Zoom and stuff like that, just so people can understand what a session might be like?
Well, before we go into any sessions, we have a consultation. So a free 30-minute chat with me so we can get to know one another. The most important thing for me is that my clients feel safe with me.
Yes.
Because unless you feel safe, you're not going to really dig into your trauma, so that I can be their rock when they're falling. So I'm here to pick them up. So they feel safe that we have this partnership. Because working with me is I give 100% and I expect my clients to also give 100%. Then it's together we're partners at this moment.
I like that.
And so whenever I have my free consultation, I always tell them I'm an open book. No matter what question you may have, personal or business, I don't care. Ask. There's no secrets. I'm ripping all their secrets out, so it's only fair if they know things about me, right?
Of course. And
Yeah.
it's got to help. So it's horrible, everything you went through, but it's got to be invaluable for your coaching and your client.
Yes, because I know what it feels like to be deeply traumatized. So
Mm-hmm.
I know what they're going through. May not be the same story, but they're telling me one thing. I say that they can believe this is that issue. So I know exactly what they're going through. And once they understand what it is they're dealing with right now, this recognition is amazing to see. Immediately releases because they're no longer afraid of it because they have a name for it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes release can come so quickly. But usually after the intake session, we already know that we're a perfect fit.
You can tell by the energy.
Exactly. And then usually most of my clients say, when can we start today? So we already have this connection. And then we just start working and I guide them through, depending what we start with. If we have to start with deep trauma healing, then I guide them through the session process, how it works, and guide them the rest of the way. And they usually have breakthroughs in the first 1 or 2 sessions with me.
Because it's got to feel good to feel safe and to be able to just start having the conversations with you about it.
Yes. And not being judged,
Yeah.
being believed.
Yeah.
That's a lot because I don't judge people. So
No.
never do.
What would you say if somebody's listening right now and they're still not at this point where they really started doing any internal work? Whether they're scared or just don't know where to begin. What would you say to that person?
Well, taking the first step takes a lot of courage. But think about it. You have been through so much and you're still here. You have no clue how much strength that takes. That's what we forget when we deal with trauma. We think because we can't get over it, we're so strong because we're still fighting. At one point, do you say, I fought enough. I want just one day of peace. And that's what it is. It just takes one day. Don't think about the whole healing journey because that is intimidating.
It
Just
is.
like when you start a marriage and you say, this is for the rest of my life, that is intimidating.
Right.
Exactly, one day at a time, one session at a time.
You
And
said a
then baby
couple.
steps.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, and then just baby steps and move forward, one step at a time.
Do you give them homework?
Yes, not every time,
But
but
you need to be accountable. And I think for me, I would need that. I couldn't just be like, all right, I'll see you next week. I would need to do some work. And
to me, it's intuitive. So when I feel it's the right time, or sometimes I just get some thought pop in my mind and say, this is what you need to do.
mhm.
This is the beautiful thing about being spiritual. Something just pops into your head and you convey the message and it's exactly what they needed to hear. So it could be that I have a journaling question for them. Or it could be they say, all right, so we're write a letter to that person. Tell them exactly what you think. Don't send it. You can burn it, rip it up, whatever, but get it out. Even in my book, I have the one journaling technique is to write everything down to clear your head. Because everything is in your head, but once you have pen and paper, it's like a yarn ball that a cat got into. It's like a total mess in there. But as you write, the yarn ball starts to go through your mind, through your arm, into your hand, and out on paper. So whatever is stuck in your head, you put it into reality. You're letting it out. And so you're freeing your mind.
Sandra, I love that idea of writing a letter. I'm going to do that when we get off this call. I'm going to write a letter up to those people that of my experience. I love that idea because I was talking to somebody that they specialize in journaling. And I know people use a lot of digital journals and stuff like that now, but they said you really need to write it. You need to
Yes,
not type it. You really need to write. They said if you want to write it and then type it into your digital journal, that's fine, but you really need to write it to get that release off both sides of your brain.
exactly. And what is that release? It's energy. So you're moving the energy out of your head onto paper. So you don't have to think about it anymore because it's right there. It's just like when you wake up in the middle of the night, oh my God, I forgot to put something on my grocery list. Write it on a piece of paper you have next to your bed so you don't have to worry about it. An appointment you could forget. Write it down so you don't have to worry about it and
Mhm.
sleep.
I love that. I'm actually going to take that homework assignment and do that when we
All right. Well, I'm glad.
You said a couple things when we were talking last time about new people coming in, old people distancing, and it opens up energy for getting rid of not bad people, but just people that aren't serving you anymore.
Yes.
And it opens up room for these other amazing people to come into your life. Can you explain
Mm-hmm.
to the listeners how important it is to understand that? Because when you lose people, it's devastating, and you go through a grieving process. Even though you still go through a grieving process with it, but it's so important for them to understand how that's so important for that next step. So can you just, through your expertise, explain that?
Sure. Well, when you first start your healing journey, you are going to tick off a lot of people. All the people who are not ready to start healing, which means as you grow and evolve, they stay down here. And they're happy here, or they just feel, well, this is where I am, but they don't like how you're rising, so they will try to pull you down to their level. They will make you feel bad, make you feel guilt or shame, because it's the best way to bring your energy back down.
Or just not acknowledge it at all?
Right, exactly. Or maybe you're just trying to get out of people pleasing, which means you have to start setting boundaries and they just brush right through, which means they're not taking you seriously, they don't respect you. But now, as you're healing and your energy is a little higher, your vibration than theirs, you start to notice those things. You start
Mhm.
to notice that I have always done that, but now suddenly that's not okay anymore because you're
Right.
no longer in that level of vibration as they are. You've evolved. So,
Mm.
and setting boundaries doesn't help. And so you start to distance yourself from them.
Right.
But as you rise in your vibration, you will meet the people who are already there at this vibration. So, and then you meet people who have already started their healing journey and they're all lighter, they're more outgoing, and they just feel better. And the other
Mhm.
ones just fall away because you're no longer in their vibrational space. The more you rise, the more people you meet that are at your level. So it's a beautiful thing, really. So technically, you meet two people in your life. You meet those that are not yet ready to go where you are, and they will try to drag you down to their level. And
Mhm.
you will meet people who have already been where you are and try to pull you up to theirs.
Do the ones that you're here and they're here, are you saying allow them to bring you up?
Yes, they will
Those are
help
the
you
people you
because
want.
yes, because they have healed all that you're still working on, so they know it's possible. And once you're higher up, there is no jealousy, there is no
Mhm.
envy, because those are low vibration energies. And the higher you
Mhm.
rise, the less you need it because you grow into your authentic self. And being authentic means you don't need all those negative emotions because that there is jealousy or envy means that someone has something that you don't, right? But you're not jealous. Well, this is my inspiration. I want to get there too. So you look at it from a different perspective. And that's a healed perspective because you understand if you want to get to a place where they are, you have to work for it, plain and simple.
And it's almost like that energy, it's magnetic. It's just
Yes,
up
it
to
is.
you to decide which way you want to go with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Exactly.
and I want to be respectful. I know we're coming up on our time, but you also mentioned too that if you can elaborate a little bit on about narcissistic people with trauma.
Yes. Well, narcissism is a huge problem in the world right now. Narcissism comes from trauma itself, usually generations of trauma. So if you come across a narcissist, he has been made a narcissist. We're not born narcissist or empath. We're being made, created by our families.
It's like a learned
Yes.
behavior.
Yes. Usually when the father is that way, the son usually is too.
Hmm.
Now, when we have abusive families, there's two ways we can go. We can become the narcissist who is exactly like them, or we become the empath who says, I don't want anyone else to be made to feel like that. So it can go either way. And these two, they are attracted to each other. The narcissist who loves to break the spirit of every person they see because their spirit has been broken. And this
Mhm.
narcissism is a wall, and they don't see that. They can't look at themselves. They hate themselves. You can see it in the mirror. They loathe themselves looking in the mirror. And
Mhm.
they're trying to overpower everyone because it's the only way they feel empowered. Tear someone else down. And now the empath is exactly the opposite. They're trying to help everybody to get to their level, to feel this lightness, to feel the love and everything. And so the empath can usually, over time, be destroyed by the narcissist because of the manipulation that's going on.
Mhm.
First being the nice, kind one, and then after a while, they flip the switch and make you feel like it's all your fault. And of course, the empath is like, oh, so what did I do wrong? What happened? And so they pull them tighter in their web until they're just a shell. And then healing from that is hard. I have a few clients who have been with narcissists, and it's possible to heal, but it takes time because you
Mhm.
have to find yourself again. You have to start setting boundaries, stop being afraid of doing something wrong because you were so manipulated and coerced into believing it's all your fault.
Mhm.
So unlearning this and moving past that takes time, but it's possible and it's so worth it.
I've read and heard before. Tell me your thoughts on this. I know everybody calls everybody a narcissist nowadays. It's so freely used, and I don't think that's right.
Yes.
But if somebody legitimately is a narcissist, I heard that they just won't change. They just can't,
No,
they just cannot have the emotional capacity to even look within to realize what they're doing to other people, including themselves.
it's true. Because they have to be completely shut off. Otherwise,
Hmm.
they couldn't deal with their emotions. It would destroy them. Finding a
Yeah.
little glimpse of compassion and looking at themselves. And first comes to self loathing, then comes the realization of what trauma they've really been through, acknowledging that. Then what they have been doing to the people they were supposed to protect. They can't. It's too much, sadly.
It's so hard because when you said if you have a parent that's narcissistic, or it's just got to be so hard for people. And with that's trauma alone.
Yes.
Well, this has been, well, you have given me, I've benefited so much just from this alone. I can't wait to go and write my letter and start doing a little bit more reflecting on the stuff that we've talked about, because it's been really, really interesting. And you seem like such a safe person. I would have no problem having you coach me. I'm sure a lot of people are going to feel that same way after listening to this and how warm and loving you are. So, can you just tell everybody how to get in touch with you? And I'll also include it when I air this.
Well, you can find me through my website, Rise Above Your Story. There is the first button you see is to book a free consultation. You would like to chat and see if we would be a good team to help
Mhm.
you. Then you can find me on Facebook under the same name, Rise Above Your Story. You can find me on YouTube under Sandra Cooze Unfiltered. And
Mhm.
my books on Amazon.
Perfect. I want to give you a big virtual warm hug and welcome you to the Trauma Rockstar family, because you're one
Thank you.
yourself. And this has just been incredible. Thank you so much for being on this.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful interview. I loved it.
Content on this podcast revolves around personal life experiences and is meant to serve as a learning tool. I'm not a certified therapist or medical expert. This podcast does not offer medical or psychological or professional advice. If you're curious about your mental and physical well being, feel free to reach out to a licensed self care professional for assistance.